Now is Sarah Kate Scott, Mrs. South Africa, joining us to talk about the Mrs. Universe 2015 pageant held recently in Belarus. If it was the Universe pageant, presumably you were competing against Mrs. Mars, Mrs. Jupiter and Mrs. Mercury. No?
Mrs. Pluto was the only one to watch out for.
Was she the one to watch?
She was.
Three eyes and 4 ears.
You know, I just thought it was unfair that she had 3 eyes, you know, so more mascara, more eye application of makeup. It was totally unfair.
You've got the highest boots I think we've had in the studio for a long time. Not fully
Apart from what you
appreciated.
wore last week, obviously.
Now you had a comment to make about Chris's shirt before you
I
started.
love a guy that wears pink. It just shows how confident you are in your masculinity. And you obviously didn't get the memo with your blue.
Listen, I'm very confident about my masculinity. Most of my shirts are pink. Okay. What are you looking so pleased about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, really, that's wonderful. Yes, keep going.
And I love that it's little pink goats. I used to have 2 pink goats.
Pink goats, and he's confident about his sexuality.
It's fantastic. What a man.
Can I have anything sensible to say after this?
I'm totally blown over here. Yeah.
Sarah Kate, tell us about this competition. I mean, Mrs. South Africa, it sounds, on the one hand, it sounds like a real thing. It sounds just slightly different to Miss South Africa.
Absolutely.
What are the qualifications to be a Mrs. South Africa? Got to be married?
Obviously you have to be married. There's no discrimination if you have children or not. That does not go into the scoring in any way. I'm incredibly blessed to be the mom of 2 little boys. My first boy is actually in studio here tonight. He's sitting behind the camera there. And he's a cancer survivor. And the reason why I entered Mrs. South Africa is I just wanted my voice to be a little bit louder. I wanted a little bit more recognition, that I'd be able to extend my charity work on a bigger platform. And incredibly privileged and honored to represent my country. It was always a dream of mine to be an ambassador for South Africa. And I have absolutely no athletic ability whatsoever. So no swimming or chess team or anything was going to get me to represent South Africa. So I was a top 12 Miss South Africa finalist a couple of years ago. Obviously didn't win that and thought my ship had sailed and that I wasn't going to have the opportunity again. And I just really believe in everything that this pageant stands for. It's about empowering women. It's not necessarily a pageant. It's not necessarily what a pageant is perceived to be.
Do you do the swimsuits and all that sort of stuff?
And you know, some women will not enter because of that, and that's absolutely okay. But what the judges look for is your confidence, and not if you have cellulite or not if you have stretch marks or not. I'm incredibly proud of my body that I've created life twice. And I'm more confident in the swimsuit section, you know, on the international platform twice than I was at Miss South Africa in the Super Bowl.
You didn't bring the swimsuit with you tonight?
I did not,
No.
unfortunately.
We can talk amongst ourselves while you change. Chris, you've been quiet?
Yes, absolutely. No, I mean, you said this was held in Belarus.
It was in Belarus.
What on earth kind of place is like that? I just have, I imagine this being some sort of old relic from the Eastern European old communist days.
I was just about to say, there was a definite sense of communism there. During my modeling career, I lived in Beijing for 4 months. And that same sense of, you know, it's just, you know, okay, let me put it this way, without offending anyone, without stepping on anyone's toes. We're an incredibly privileged country to have the human rights that we do. And I feel that when I'm in those type of countries, it doesn't necessarily feel the same.
Other qualifications to get into this, you have to be married. Is there a kind of, if you're 18 and married, can you enter?
It's 25 to 50. So it's just out of the age group of the Miss South Africa. And we're in absolutely no competition. It's a completely different demographic. We speak to a completely different market. But I think what both pageants do is give people an opportunity to represent your country, fly the flag high, and to extend yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's where the magic happens.
You must have a huge time commitment. And did it cost you money to enter and
it's a minimal fee to actually enter. But the Mrs. South Africa pageant sponsorship is absolutely exorbitant. I got a car, all my clothing, my makeup, my hair care, everything's basically provided for. So it really is wonderful in the fact that you're not going to incur cost by winning. Being at Mrs. World and being at Mrs. Universe, I have to say I was quite surprised that not all of the countries support their winner the way that South Africa does. We may be third world, we may be perceived as though we're third world, but when we go to those pageants, we really are. We put a lot of the countries to shame, which was something that made me burst with pride. I was like, we come in as the underdog every time, which is great.
Well, we heard in the days of Miss South Africa, and I think the Miss South Africa pageant and competition has lost its luster to some extent. Maybe it's been taken over by competitions like this, which seem, I don't know, a bit more sensible. And
maybe a little bit more relevant is the correct word.
Yeah, and I often think with the Miss South Africa, the kinds of questions that they ask them and the answers they give, you think, wow, you know, they're all sounding the same. You're not sounding the same as anyone.
I think what I love so much about the Mrs. South Africa brand is that, you know, I don't have a PhD, I don't have a master's in psychology, I'm just a mom. I'm trying to make a difference in this world.
Never say just a mom, right? Not just a mom.
I thank you for that compliment, but I feel that we're not trying to be anything more than what we are. We're not going to try and come into this type of interview and, you know, try and revolutionize the world. All we're doing is making a little ripple effect, and we're definitely not doing the whole world peace, you know, that silliness and that miscongeniality movie type stereotype. We moms, we do it all, we're doing it in heels, we're doing it with a slick of lipstick, and there is a demographic of that in society, and all we're doing is representing that to the best of our ability.
I mentioned the time aspect, so now for the year that you are Mrs. South Africa or the runner, I mean, you've got a lot of work to do. It must take a lot of time.
It does.
Which kind of makes it difficult to be Mrs. to your husband, to your kids. I mean, it takes your time.
The great thing about this organization is that there's absolutely no definite, you have to go to these functions. They ask you every single time, would you like to attend this? Would you like to attend that? Is it relevant to you? Does it make sense to you? I've woken up every single day thinking, how can I make a difference today? So I've battled to say no. But for me, what this has really shown me and enlightened me is that I really can take on more, do more, and achieve even more balance. So my kids are happy. I've got my little boy here standing by the cameraman here. He's with me. We've had precious time today. And come to mommy, my baby.
Come on to the set.
He's such a
What's
good
his
boy.
name again?
This is Marky.
Hello, Marky.
And, and it's about doing that. It's about saying, you know, mommy has to go to a TV interview. Do you want to come with mommy? And we'll be having a great bonding experience on the way home talking about this.
That's great. And your husband doesn't see as much of you as he used to?
He doesn't, but he's an incredibly busy man himself, and he understands how much this means to me, and that this has been a dream of mine for so long. And without him and without his support, I wouldn't have been able to have had the reign that I have had, and to the success level that I've had it at.
Last word to Chris, who's still recovering from the opening of this interview.
Still recovering, you're quite right. Yeah, I mean, do you get a choice in terms of during your tenure, what do they ask you to do? Are there certain things you can say, no, I'm not going to do that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the charity of choice for the organisation is Cancer Association of South Africa. And I'm the patron of Cupcakes for Kids with Cancer. So that in itself has aligned beautifully and perfectly, and it's something that's incredibly close to home. My husband and my firstborn are both cancer survivors, so I've absolutely not said no to anything that's going to raise awareness. And I'm really proud of the pageant that we raised over $500,000 for that charity. And I think that in itself, even if it was the hairspray and silliness, just the fact that, baby, no feet on table, even if it was just that the organization only raised money for charity and everything else was silly and ditzy, which it's not, then we would have the validation to stand with our head held high the way we do.
Well done, fantastic, good causes, and you've clearly done a lot for them. Well done. That's Sarah Kate Scott, Mrs. South Africa, for joining us this evening, and not upsetting Chris, but certainly putting him into a wordless state for a while with his pink shirt and the pink goats on his tie. I just want to remember, I do have a lot of pink shirts, which I will wear next time that you come in. Thanks to you and Marky for coming into the studio.
Thank you so much.